Awesome. Hey, Paul. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're here in Gangnam in Seoul. Pretty awesome.
Welcome. Live from Seoul.
Yes, live from Seoul. And I think it was, 9 years ago we first met in New York.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think we were playing some kind of Secret Hitler or Mafia game.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I just saw you again for a second time, only like 4 or 5 months ago when you were visiting Austin.
Right.
And you were telling all sorts of stories about, I had no idea that you had 3 children, right? And,
you always forget.
Yeah. And what was just kind of impressive to me when you were just telling stories about not only how you had them at a young age, but how you really kind of manage and optimize those relationships in a very proactive and thoughtful way. And that's exactly the reason why I wanted to come, and talk to you about this whole thing.
Thank you.
I
mean, it's also an opportunity for me to actually, 정리 everything.
Yeah.
So it's good for me too.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, and I certainly want to get into kind of the specifics about how you kind of went about that in terms of because you had a lifestyle that didn't necessarily allow you to always be with your family, and again, I definitely want to dive into that. But before we do, I really wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about your childhood and your growing up, and because you've led a non-traditional life in terms of you've very much been in the startup world here in Korea for quite a bit of time.
Right.
And even though that world has kind of expanded here in Korea and say it's more accepted, it's still considered non-traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time, right? So let's start off. I want to hear more about your growing up, the environment that you were in, and then especially kind of the kinds of influences that your parents might have had, particularly maybe even your father or perhaps both as well, just to kind of understand the balance, or perhaps there wasn't a balance. I'm not really sure.
Right.
But yeah, let me just stop there. I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about your childhood.
Right. So let me go back to my parents. I mean, I'm the firstborn, and my parents, my father, he was in he was like a normal 공돌이, like computer science, and he met with an art professor. So they were both professors at the same university. I remember him telling me about he would stay after class, try to hook up with my mother. right. So I mean, they were very happy, and
where was that? Where in Korea?
I think it was really southern part, Suncheon.
Okay.
Up there, and they were both professors, and they were really eager on success, right? So they're very success-driven people, and life crisis hit our family, which was my dad getting cancer, right? And my mother was told that he only had 6 months to live, right? And that was shocking for the whole family.
How old were you?
I was, I think, 6 or 7. Yeah. So, and probably 7, right? Because I had my sister and we have 6 years of gap. And that kind of changed my mother, right? And before that, she was very success driven. She was all about hey, you get doctorate, and I will be really focused in our family, supporting you. And after you get your success, it's my turn. It was always like that, right? And that passing away really gave lots of life changing questions to my mom. And then she got spiritual. I think she did MDiv from 3 universities. No, so still she was very academic, but she was focused into Christian stuff, right? And after about 4 or 5 years of her studying MDiv, she decided to become a full-time missionary, right? And that kind of changed everything.
Your life, everything.
Yeah. She was very radical, very entrepreneurial, and her first church that she would plant and help was in New Orleans, and we lived in the projects. I don't know if you guys, if you know what a project is. It's kind of like a Harlem thing,
Sure.
In New York.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, we call it projects. And I remember growing up in a school, elementary school, and
when were you when you moved to New Orleans? How old were you then?
I think I was in my 4th grade, so I started
It's 2-3 years after.
Right.
Okay.
father passed away.
Yeah.
She did her seminary in New Orleans, and she, took over the first church that she was supposed to work on, and it was in the projects. And I remember growing up. So I'm not sure if you understand what it's like growing up in the projects.
Definitely do not.
So
Yeah.
my first shock that I remember was that when I was getting into admission to school, the elementary school, they told me they were looking at my bag because I was like all prepared. I was like first day of school, right? But they didn't let me in. Yeah, it was like they were like, oh, today we're just gonna explain to you what's gonna be like, and here are the things that you need to check. And the teacher was looking back at my backpack, and she was like, oh, you can't bring that backpack. It was like, why, is it not big enough? It was like, no, only transparent backpacks allowed here in school.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, like, there are some incidents, like students bringing like, weapons,
Yeah.
right? So like, that was like real
In
shock.
elementary school. That's crazy. Wow.
And I mean, this was very normal, and she was like, yeah, you need to go to Walmart, and they will have everything. And I was like, I did go to Walmart, and I saw there are two types of things, like mesh transparent and like a plastic transparent. I remember. And that was my first impression of going to school in New Orleans, right?
First memory almost.
Yeah. So we would sometimes go through metal detectors before actually entering the school, right? And so I grew up in the project, and I mean, people live there, right? There's no.
Were you scared? Or was it just like,
No,
hey, this just is?
I mean, there are some times that, people scare me.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I mean, when you get over things,
Yeah.
you only remember the good things, right?
Sure.
I mean, I remember very, it was very fun and happy, and I met lots of great friends when I was growing up in the projects. But I remember there were some incidents that I remember that it was like life-threatening. We would get into like gang fights, and drug lords would try to bash into our house. I mean, growing up, yeah, I did have some incidents that would definitely scare me. But yeah, I mean, I mostly have great memories. Yeah.
So when a lot of things were new, some of it, was kind of like, like shocking, maybe not in the most positive way.
Yeah.
Who did you lean on? What did you lean on?
So mostly, I was really into computer science, right? So I would like really focus on. I spent most of the time, building software, tweaking my hardware. I got my first like personal computer when I was like in 4th grade, right? So and it was like all ripped from different parts. So my mother didn't have enough money to actually buy me a wholesome.
So you just got like 조립해.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would look at newspapers and buy parts. So I got my first personal computer when I was 4th grade,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a working personal computer until I was in 5th grade.
Got it. Okay.
So I would like mow lawns and get pocket money, and I would just like build parts and make it actually work.
So you took it upon yourself to go do like a side hustle, make some money.
Right.
Is that something that your mom was like, hey, you should do, or you just said, hey, I'm just going to do this?
She would just say, oh, how much I make, so like if you want something, you should definitely go earn it, right?
Got it.
Yeah, she wasn't like really, putting me out there, but she was definitely telling me that there's nothing coming from her. So.
Got it.
Right.
And then what was your sibling situation then?
So I mean, she was too young.
Yeah.
So like we have like 6 years
Yeah.
age gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she was living with us definitely.
Got it. Right. So you just kind of went out and like tell me about some of the ways that you made money, like other than lowing them on, like what were some of the ways in which you kind of put yourself out there?
Mowed lawn, sold candies to my friends at school. I think that's about it, And definitely, I tried selling different things like that I could make out of my computer. I did have some friends who were really interested in manga and Japanese anime, and
Yeah.
what I would do is like I would print in color pictures and laminate them and sell it to them, but that didn't really take off. So most of my money came from mowing lawns, teaching Korean to 1.5 generations who couldn't speak their
Really?
mother language.
Okay.
and doing some math tuition, I think, yeah, sometimes, and mostly mowing lawns and teaching Korean, and you know,
And you were already doing this at like in elementary school.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I'm actually surprised that you're thinking that this is something, not normal.
No, because so I grew up very privileged.
Right,
So
right.
for someone that grew up in kind of my environment, that would be kind of abnormal. And I would say that like a lot of even like middle class, that yes, there would be things like mowing lawns and whatnot, but like I felt that maybe wasn't something that they really pushed until like they were more like in middle school,
Yeah, I
something
guess
like those
so.
lines. So that was like
Right.
fairly early, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. But I was given a lot of chances, like because since I didn't have a father in my life, right?
Yeah.
And lots of housework and chores that a normal father would do were kind of like upon me, right?
Yeah.
So like unless it was like really like super dangerous, it would be really done mostly through me, like changing light bulb, mowing the lawns, fixing something that's broken, that kind of thing, right?
So all the household things
right.
that a father would do, you were
Yeah.
basically doing it all
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. Right. Yeah. And then people would just ask me, it's like, hey, I see, like I think in a point of view that I would think of myself right now is that like I think the elders would really look at me cute, like, hey, that thing is trying to earn some money out of doing that kind of chores, I would maybe help them. It wasn't something that I would really do well. I think it's something they would give me a lot of chance. And I grew up in a church, right? Even though it was like in the projects, there were elders and there were lots of chipsamins, and they would just see me as like the pastor's kid, and we should help him out.
Got it. So as it was happening for you, it was just kind of like, hey, I'm just doing this. Like, do you remember questioning it or anything like that? It was just kind of like, hey, this is just what just needs to happen, and I'm just basically just living life.
I mean, there were some times that I would compare myself to people or kids or friends who had more privilege, but you can't whine forever, right?
So your exposure, and because obviously your interest in computers and whatnot, obviously has continued to this
so.
day.
Yeah.
Was that something that someone kind of introduced to you? Was that just something that right off the bat you just knew that was something that you wanted? Like, how did you get exposed in a sense to know that was something for you to dive into and become passionate about?
That's actually a good question. I think I met some wrong friends, who were really interested in hardware and software. But I think I have a habit of falling into something that I can control. Like since there's so many uncertainties in my life, started growing up. But one of my hobbies that I have right now is actually cooking too.
Okay.
And I see cooking as like playing a game. You have this, put it all together, bam, you have something. And when you create that dish, you get your family or your friends could enjoy it, and that gives me lots of feedback. So I think it was back then. It's like there's not many things that I can control in my life, but in software, you input A, B, C, there's D. Wow.
Inputs and outputs.
Right. Yeah. And it was just like a big fascination for me. Like I would really be focused, and I would spend nights and days and just thinking about like, hey, what would happen if I put C instead of D?
Tweak this and tweak that.
Right.
And that was just you just kind of going on like iterations on your own. Was there anybody in the picture there, or was it just you just kind of just doing this all on your own?
No, I have friends who definitely
were very much into it,
and they would definitely be interested as well. So yeah,
got it.
Just not just me, but friends, community. There were some big bros who were really into like techie stuff, and they would let me and take me to Radio Shack.
Oh yeah, I miss Radio Shack. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I was a very beloved pastor's kid. So they took me a lot into different places, and I would get definitely a lot of influence from different people. But most of it was really focused on software and hardware. Yeah.
So, who would you say who are the people that most influenced you as part of your childhood and you were growing up?
Well, definitely my mother,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, her life being so radical
Yeah.
and entrepreneurial. Yeah, definitely. Because like she would tell me, "Hey, son, I have decided that my calling is in North Korea, and I would have to leave in like 6 months." I'm like, okay, wow, that's gonna change my life a lot. And she would say, "You have like three choices. Hey, you can stay here with no legal guardian, or you could follow me to North Korea, or you could go to South Korea, back to Korea, and you could live with your relatives, right?" And she would tell me, like, I think number one is a bad idea because you would have no legal guardian, and I really do think that you would not get good influence if you go to high school in the U.S., right?
So, when did your mom drop that bomb on you?
So I think it was in ninth grade. So
Ninth grade. So that was like a
right.
few years after you moved there.
Right. So I moved to this U.S. When I was in fourth grade.
Yeah.
So
Like 5 years later.
yeah. So like New Orleans has like 5-3-4 system, which is like you go to junior high when you're sixth grade, and you
Six,
go to
seven,
high
eight,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
In ninth grade,
You go
yeah.
high school in ninth grade. So I was in high school, having like the most fun, making friends, girlfriends. Like few of my friends had driver license, so we would not have any kind of problem, going out and having fun, right? So then I think it was like 6 months before this, she has been talking about it. Her heart was always definitely was doing her missions for the refugees of North Korea, right? And but she said, no, I think we have the chance, and she's going to take it, and it's going to influence you a lot, and you have the three options, and I think you should go to South Korea. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Right. And it was very surprising because it's been like 7 years since
You were back here.
yeah. And when you're an adult, 7 years maybe that's not a big thing, but when you're a child,
it's huge,
like it's
yeah.
huge,
Right.
right? Like, and and I don't know why. Like I was like really, really okay with that. I was like, okay, oh that sucks, and I would have to give up everything,
Right.
the relationship, and the study and everything, but. Yeah, thing happens, and you've warned me for a few years, and you made your mind, and I do think that it's almost impossible for me to live by myself here, right?
So it sounds like your mother was very like, she was very direct and she was like matter of fact, and she said, look, you're an adult. I'm going to just tell you how it is, kind of, right? Not that you were an adult technically, but like she treated you like one.
Right.
And like, was that just the way that
yeah.
she just kind of like, whatever it was about life, like, which she just
I'm
said,
glad
hey,
that
this
you
is how
brought
it
it
is.
up. Yeah. That actually influenced me a lot. So
Yeah.
she would. So I was actually. So she was a pastor at a ministry at three small churches, right? And I was like her partner because I played guitar and piano for her church, right? And those small churches, they don't have a big band,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And you only have just one person who could actually help you make throughout the service, right? So she would always tell me and treat me as a partner of her ministry, right? And she would, always give me feedback. It's like, oh, I think we should go with these kind of songs today. And she would just like ask me, because I had to be there because I played piano for her, right? She would ask me, it's like, how was my sermon today, right? And that kind of made me feel that, she has her thing, which is ministries, and I'm kind of like, like co-founder, and that gave me a lot of influence because, it was, of course, there are some things that she would just tell me what to do, right? But most of the time, it was really about, hey, I sense the problem here, or I sense what's going on, the context, right?
Yeah.
And I would move on my own. I would make my own decisions, right? I would change songs. I would even lead a prayer. I would, ask her how to let's change the sermon this way. So I think that I'm glad that you brought this up, but it was actually given to me from my mother that you need to treat your children from the early days that you're an individual person and I respect you, and of course you're young and you have like no experience at all, but eventually you will, and this is just a training period of you trying to be an individual person and making your own decision in life, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. And then as you were like, your sister is 6 years younger than you, you saw her kind of applying the same thing to your sister as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And because like I feel like it's one of those things where you clearly had the personality to be able to kind of handle it, if you will, right? I can see how maybe if you were a complete different personality, you may not have been able to kind of take such a, I don't know if burden's the right word,
Yeah.
but such accountability and ownership of your own decisions in your life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and because I'm the firstborn, and the son, because like in Korean tradition, mothers rely on their son more, and they get very controlly or
Sure.
for the daughters, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I don't think my sister had the same life as me, but yeah, yeah. But like she's doing her mission work too.
Yeah.
My sister, she's in a Middle Eastern country doing refugee work. Right?
Got it. So you're the odd one then.
Yeah, I am the odd one. Yeah, I'm the odd one. Yeah.
So what was that like coming back? How did things change in terms of when you came back to Korea?
I mean, she put me in like a really suburb area. Like
Okay.
I had to live with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And like it was like living in the outback, right? So it's like so 시골.
Yeah.
And I would literally go with my grandfather to the mountain and chop wood to make dinner.
Oh, wow.
It was like, but I only did that for like a half a year.
Yeah.
And it was like, it really helped me grow inner self because after the sun was down, I had nothing to do, no internet, not even good flow of electricity or TV. So I would just read, write songs. That was like my 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And since it was like a total different atmosphere from what I just had in the
New
US,
Orleans,
right?
yeah.
I would go out, play with my friends in their muscle cars, and I would meet girls, and that was all that. That was high school, right? And suddenly I'm in Korea,
chopping wood.
waking up in 5 a.m. because that's when my grandparents wake up, right? And they would call me lazy head because I wouldn't wake up in like 5:30, right? And of course they cut me some slack, but still, and I would go to the mountains, So I grew up I spent that 6 months really being the outback boy, I guess. Right.
So what happened? Why was it only 6 months? What happened after that?
Oh yeah, they decided that I should definitely go to the city to actually go back to high school, right? So
Got it.
yeah.
What year was this?
1999, I think.
1999. Got it. Okay. Oh wow, only a few years before the World Cup, huh?
Yeah. So I went to high school, and that was a huge change because then I realized that there was this thing called IPSI, which is like your 3 years in high school is only focused on getting the KST, right? And going into that Seoul National University is like the only goal that you should have in your life, right?
Yeah.
And I was surrounded by these people because my high school was like a private school, and they would everyone would gaslight you, they would say typical gaslighting would be like, hey, your life depends on university, and going to the right university is like the thing that you should be focused on.
Did you drink that Kool-Aid?
I think.
Or did you say something a little weird about this?
No, I was like, oh, I see where you're at, and I see that because like my grandparents were really counting on me, and I see that I will not get any help from my mother, right? So yeah, I see that could be a path that I could go, right? But after a year, the first year of high school, I got into like different kind of options, right? I was like introduced with like local entrepreneurs, and they would give me like part-time jobs, right? So I would be doing lots of part-time jobs for the gangs in that small city. Yeah, like it was a popular thing that like back in 1998 or 1999 that gangs would actually run PCbangs, which is like internet cafes,
yeah.
right? And it was like huge popular business in Korea, and
Right.
everything was like emerging, right? And they would, build PCbangs, and they just don't know how to operate it,
operate
right?
it.
And every night, they would have like broken hardware and broken software, right? What I would do is after school, I would just go to them and I would just fix their computers, right? And I did this for money, and it was really fun because I got to see like different kind of businesses, like my school was only telling me like go to Seoul National University or go to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
And after school there was like a whole different world, right? Right. And these hyungnims, they would just take me to school with their Mercedes Benz, and they would give me allowances,
A lot more fun, yeah.
Yeah, they would buy me jjajangmyeon, and and those were the cool bros.
How did you end up meeting these guys?
I mean, I think I started as a customer for their PCbangs.
Oh,
and
got it.
when something breaks and no one know how to do it, I would say, hey, yeah, I'll help out, and they give me the job.
Got it. Okay, so you're just your interest just brought you there, basically. Yeah.
And I remember, one of the PCbangs, they really had their problem with the marketing, and I don't know if it was ever a thing in U.S., but in Korea, there was an era where young kids would just meet online, chat online, and become couples, and actually, meet up and make up, right? So back then, they didn't have some kind of a cloud-based service, And what would happen is you would actually need to have a separate server to actually run these kind of services. So what I would do is I would set up, I would tell the owner, say, hey, if we could host a chatting service, and I can do that, and if you just lend me one computer that would act as a server, right? And we would market this chatting service with your PCbang name, right? And what that would happen was like it would just gather people, who would just like to meet up, right?
Yeah.
And since it was promoting that PCbang, everyone should come to the PCbang, right? So that really worked out. So that was kind of like my first gig as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Pitching to the 사장님 and saying that you need this for marketing, and I would set up the whole service and run it, operate it, and we had like more than 1,000 people just like just coming and creating community, meeting boys and girls, right? And everything was fun, and that really helped out the business, right? So I remember that that turning out after learning how PCbangs really work and how they make money, actually proposing to the owner how he should run the business. That
Or some doing growth marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, got it. So tell me how that then kind of, because you've been in the startup world. Tell me, was there like some kind of turning point as it relates to the career that you're in now? How it led you down a certain path, or was this everything just kind of like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm just interested in doing this, and then suddenly a new opportunity comes up and I go this way, and then something comes up, I go that way.
I think it was more the latter one.
Yeah.
But of course, I had my own kind of like like my own reasons or rules, that I would do or not. But mostly it was like I would see a big opportunity and I would, just seize it, right?
Yeah.
And that would change my life.
Yeah. Got it. And how much was your mom in the picture at this time?
Like less than 5%, because like she would send me letters or emails like once in 2-3 months that like, oh, I'm here now. I don't know where I'm gonna be in the next 3 months, but this is what I have been doing. But it was good to, I mean, I think that really influenced me because she would just, she would send me, I think those letters were not like really mother and son letters, but like, hey, I'm in a business trip for like 3 months, and this is what I've been doing, and I think you should know, because you and I look at the same thing, right? So she would send me partner letters, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought that no matter what kind of business that I'm in, I would be somewhere in her picture, when I grow up. It's like she's doing her missions, right? But maybe maybe I won't be doing missions in her way, but I'll be doing something in my way to help people, feed people,
Yeah.
and actually, bring the community at best, right? So.
Got it. Was there a father figure that you would say was in your life at this point or anything like that?
Mostly movies.
Movies.
Right. So there were some elder men in my life that really influenced me, but not really a person who would continuously meet up with me and talk with me. No.
So there wasn't like a consistent figure or anything like that. Yeah.
No. It was difficult to find that kind of figure, But I grew up in a church, so many pastors try to build that rapport with me, but they never succeeded because I was like really outgoing. So, and I was banging up girls, so that was a bad thing. so yeah, that. But there were some people who did have a huge influence on me. A few pastors, a few teachers, a few coaches, a few entrepreneurs, right?
What was the impact that some of these individuals had, if you recall? Like, what was whether it was a value or a learning or just something that kind of, I don't know, maybe you still carry it to this day, but what were some of those influences that you just referred to?
That is a hard question. Yeah. Do you mind asking me that again? Like
I will.
At the end of the interview?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Because I think if we do because we're talking like timestamp, right?
Yeah.
Pulling that out of, I think it will take time.
Yeah. Understood. So at this point, so wait, then what was college then for you?
So, in my senior high school year, I met this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was, I think, 2 years older than me. Yeah, I think. Yeah. This is surprising because she's my wife.
Oh, so like back then you were a baller dating with older girls.
Right.
Yeah.
So she was in college.
Yeah.
And I was in high school.
Yeah.
And in Korea, that's like impossible because life as a high school student and life as
totally different. Totally different,
right?
Yeah.
And you have like 110% autonomy when you're in high college,
right.
and you have like 0% autonomy in high school. But I really fell for this girl, and she came to me and said, "Hey, I heard that you spent your young years in U.S. Maybe you could teach me English, right?" I was like,
yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So I spent like at least 2 hours every week meeting up with her, helping her with her English, right? Which is still not that good, but I was like, trying to, create a reason that, that I could meet up with this girl, right? So I would chase her for about a year, right?
She was really only interested in the English?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was the door. It was opened up the doors. So.
Right. She tried to be the nuna, and she would just buy me food and care for me. But I don't think she ever saw me as a person that she would date.
So when did that change?
I think when I kind of pushed that, hey, if you're not gonna date, maybe we should not study.
Oh, nice. Okay, ultimatum.
Right. And she kind of opened up.
Yeah.
So we started dating.
Yeah.
And that's when we learned that we created MVP before we incorporated. Right.
This is a story that I remember from Austin. Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't on intention, but we loved each other and we hung out with each other, and that's what happens, right? Two entrepreneurs, when they spend enough time with each other, you get that MVP, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't want to. I mean, I was so scared.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little child, and that thing never happened to me before. So I was really scared that I was like, oh, I knocked over a girl. What I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do with my life? How I'm gonna tell my parents? I'm gonna tell her parents, And I think she was the bigger one, or trying to tell her that I would step up, I would try to be the father, right? And and she had, I mean, she was in law school, and she had the future ahead of her, right? And I tried to tell her that I'll try to grow up and I'll try to become a father, so you can be, you can pursue after your dreams, right? And I think her parents really, saw the cuteness in that, and so their parents, although they gave me some harsh talks, but eventually, they decided that, we'll just keep raise you as our son, because I had no adult figure in my life in Korea, right? So my mother was in China, and my grandparents, they were like really old, right? And so her parents kind of took me in, and they even gave me a place to live, right? So ever since then, I've been really, really happy with the relationship that they have given me, So her father and mother, they were divorced, but her father tried to be the father figure in her life, and mother, she's like really, even with her, so she got in an accident when she was young, and and she's on a wheelchair, and having that disability and helping raising a grandchild was like really tough for her, but she decided that, hey, I want you as my son and my daughter to have a normal college life, right? And I was like, what does that mean? I was like, I'll take care of your child for a year or so you can have the utmost, the most fun, growing part of your, in early 20s, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, my mother-in-law, she's just full of love, and she took me in as a son, and so my wife and I, we were really focused in our studies, and that only went on for like a few months, and then we were like partying like crazy. We were young, and
So you took advantage.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the big difference with American and Korean universities or college life is that, in Korea, it's kind of like you go crazy studying in high school, and then in college is the party time, right?
Right.
So
right.
it's considered kind of when you have
More
the
like-
license to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
party,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they wanted to make sure that you had that.
Yeah,
So you took
definitely.
advantage.
Right, I took advantage.
Yeah.
I took too much advantage, and I remember. So there were like so many stupid things that I've done in my early 20s, but one thing that definitely changed my life was I was still into computer science in my college years, and I got into hacking, and I got caught.
Oh, what did you hack?
So I got into this corporate server,
Yeah.
right? And I was just messing around with data. And,
Yeah.
and then, like when you're a hacker, it's more of like, can you do it?
Yeah, yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of like, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I got caught, and they put me in jail.
Oh.
Yeah, and since my wife was studying law,
Yeah.
she was like really focused on try to bail me out, right?
Yeah.
And I spent like 3 weeks behind the bars,
Oh, wow.
and she got me out.
Yeah.
And I was on probation for like 2 years.
So wait, so this was like how many kind of like months or years into like whether it was college life or after?
Right, I
after
think it
college
was
work?
my sophomore year in college, right,
it.
that I got caught,
Yeah.
and I had to hold off school because
Yeah.
I was
Yes, yeah. Take a little detour. Yeah.
right, and I think that was one of the kind of like big ringing bells that like Sung, Paul, you need to get your head straight.
Yeah.
Like I know that you're trying to try different things, and you'll definitely learn different things out of that, but there are some boundaries that you should not definitely take because you have a wife and a kid now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that was definitely a thing.
It's like a wake-up
And-
call.
Right,
Yeah.
wake-up call. And so I don't know why, but so I took that ring and I said, okay, I'm gonna try to be, get my head straight and try to get my career straight. So what I did was I actually applied job at the company that I hacked, and
Oh.
they took me in.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that was. I feel so thankful that
Yeah,
they did.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know if they actually looked at my records because it was a very a small internship kind of job, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they took me in, and I was the software testing engineer
Yeah.
at a company called NCSoft, one of the biggest gaming companies. And
You hacked NCSoft.
I mean, back then it was easy. Now it's not.
I'm sure, but still.
Yeah, right. So they actually told me that my job would be creating a software that tests for bugs in their software, which made totally sense. I was like, yeah, I can do this, right? And I had so much fun. You know, like I was a gamer back then, and I always had this kind of like envy thing for game developers, right? So I started my career as a software testing engineer for NCSoft, and I met so many brilliant people there, right? And they were happy with me, and they told me really important like life-making decisions because they already saw me like, hey, you're this child, you know, who's really, you know, having fun with your life, but you need to support your family, right? So many of my, you know, senpais, you know, people who would give me life, you know, decision making advices, they would definitely tell me, hey, you need to go back to school and finish your school, right? And you know, with your skills and your, you know, personality, I don't think you would have any trouble, you know, finding a place back when you finish your school, right? So I went back to school, and I think that was like literally the year that I was so focused in on my academics. I was so happy because I had a place to go back, and all of these things that I wanted to learn were there, and they let me, you know, audit their, you know, classes. They let me choose what I could learn, and even some professors actually, you know, told me, hey, you should come teach 1 hour, you know, because you have this experience on software testing and engineering, right? And they gave me this cool opportunity to actually, you know, prepare for a talk and giving that talk to my fellow students. So it was really fun, right? So after that, about a year or so, one of the senpais who actually told me to go back to school, he said, hey, I'm going on this new project. I think you should come work for me, right? So I told him, hey, you're the one who told me to go back to school. And now you want a job. You want me to get your job, right? So I kind of asked them to cut me some slack, and I want to finish my school. So they said, okay, if you come and work for us 6 days a week, you can go to 5 days a week. You could definitely spend one day a week in school. Right? So I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday out in the office working. And every Thursday, I would do 12 hours of study. So it was like 12 hakjam in one day. And I was like, oh, it was crazy. But it was
How did you decide on that? How did you decide, hey, instead of just going full time and just finishing school more quickly, how did you decide that doing this split thing was the right thing at the time?
No, it was just like like people would tell me, like, when you get an offer, you know, don't settle on it first time, you know, definitely ask them if they could, you know, give you something that you want. And definitely I was having fun at school because I was having fun learning, right? And I didn't want to give this up. So like, it was like, hey, you know, you gave me A, you offered me A, but I actually want A+. You know, can we, you know, settle on this? And they were like, yeah, sure. And I was like, wow, I didn't know this worked. Like,
was that one of the first kind of times that you did any kind of real negotiation?
Oh no.
Way before that,
was like, oh, you know, I think my first negotiation was like in elementary school, where, you know, my Jitsanim would offer me, you know, like meals if I mow their lawns, and I would say, hey, like, you know, you buying me meal is taking up your money and your time. Just give us money. Right.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Got it. Okay. So, you know, you already mentioned your MVP.
Right.
Right. And then, so like one of the things that I mentioned that we talked about when we met in Austin again was like I was just really kind of enamored with like the way in which you proactively really plan for the way that you spent time with your children and whatnot. Right. We've only talked about your first child so far.
Right.
But you know, there was that period where it sounded like your mother-in-law was kind of taking the time to really raise a child.
Right.
When did you kind of go back into kind of parenting mode, if you will?
Of course. I mean, like noticing that we are having so much fun. Mother-in-law, you know, we sat down and said, hey, I think it's about time that, you know, the family should reunite and we should all live together. And definitely both my son-in-law and my daughter needs more input in parenting, right? So like we were all agreeing on that, and we wanted more time with our daughter and son. Yeah. So I think then it started. So like in my 30s, that's when the career kind of took off, right? And I did my first startup when I was in 20, and I did my second startup when I was 28, right? And when I was doing that second startup, that's when I was like really, blooming my career. Like I was meeting different people. I was in like so many sales meetings. I was setting up like offices abroad, those kind of things. And that's when I kind of feared that, I'm not gonna have enough time for my children, And those things kind of really gave me this, this regretful feeling that this is something that I should not pursue, and there's always this hassle on spending more time on my company, spending more time with my family, that kind of thing, right?
So this was when you were around 30, you said?
Yeah.
And then how old was your MVP at the time?
Probably in her elementary school, so like 9 years old.
Right. And then you said children. So when did the
second one?
Yeah.
So they have 3 years in gap. So
Yeah.
definitely I had a second child, which is a boy.
Yeah.
Right? So first, second, we had a family of 4.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like out busy, and I was like so it was like, I think many Korean fathers would agree on the life pattern. Like 9 to 6, you're at work.
Yeah.
And normally 6 to 9, you're out 회식.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And you spend your weekend, or at least one day of your weekend, going to people's weddings or 돌잔치.
Sure.
Right? It's a typical thing.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I was doing that too, because I was outgoing. I was doing my own business. I need to network.
So you got
I need to learn
invited
new
a lot
things,
to these
right?
things, right?
Like lots of weddings, lots of seminars, lots of parties. So I was definitely participating a lot of that. And like one day it hit me, it's not going to work, right? And
Did something happen?
I think lots of things happened.
No, but like when you said it hit you,
right?
Like what was there like some event or something that kind of made you kind of have that realization?
I'm not sure if it was in the same situation, but I remember this incident when so I knew this person who's I think she has a doctorate on like child psychology, right?
Yeah.
And she was like really she was being very open, and she said, "Hey, I see that you're trying to struggle with your family, and bring me your kid anytime," right? I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So out of curiosity, I took my second born, which is a boy, and I think he was like 6 at that time, and I took him to her office, and we sat down and we were having this talk, right? And she was like, "Okay, enough of the parents. You can go outside and wait now. I'll have my time with the child," right? So after like an hour or two, we would go back to the office, and she would just share to us his drawings. Have you ever had these kind of sessions?
I just heard of them, but I've never. Yeah.
So I remember every drawing because it was so shocking for me, right? So she shows me the first drawing and says, "Hey, guess what
this represents?"
Yeah. No. She asked me one thing. I gave one keyword to your child, and he drew it. It's up to you to figure out what that keyword was.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because she would just give me the output, right?
Yeah.
And the picture was, I was surprised that it was well drawn. It was a first person view of you. I think it's like the I don't know what's the right word in English, but 신발장, like where you put your shoes off. It's it's like your main entrance of the house, right?
Yeah.
So it's a first person view of your main entrance.
The front entrance, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. I don't know, like I can't believe that he drew his 신발장, right?
Yeah. But it represented something else.
Yeah, the word that I told your son to draw was draw a house or draw your room.
Oh,
And
jeez.
that was like so shocking for him. It was like, why would he draw his room as the main entrance? Like,
Yeah.
because that's where he feels. And I was like, all of my tears, I was like, what did I do to my son? You know, like, am I not making him feel homey? You know, am I not giving him enough time? And I was like, me and my wife, we were so shocked, you know. And she showed us the second picture, and she said, "Hey, guess what this is?" Right? It's like, and there's it's like a picture of your family. You know how the children draw it, right? And I was like, "Wow, I see it." And yeah, definitely, this is a picture of your family. Draw a picture of your family, but what we as an expert, what we look at is the size of each member, right? Because it represents how big of rapport do they have with that member of the family, right? And I was so happy because the dad figure was like really huge, and mom was like really small, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing my shit right. It's like, yeah, mom, you should do more, right? And she would tell me, this is abnormal, and this is very bad for the child. It's like, why? Because I'm doing my job, right? She was like, no, because it's either daughter or son. It doesn't really the father figure is not really important until they grow up, right? It's actually the mother figure that has to play an important role. And she says that normally, like more than 95% of the time, mom is the biggest figure, and that's when the child has like a really good status, right? And like, what can I do differently? It's like I see that your son needs to develop more time with their wife because she was doing her studies too, right? And we both weren't giving him enough time, right? And she kind of advised me like, hey, try to focus your role as in not spending enough time with your son, but try to focus your role as in play the parenting where your son and your wife would have intimacy or rapport, right? And until he's like 7, 8 years old, right? Before that, it's more of a mother thing. A focus that you give your son and your wife that they have more private time. So I shifted, right?
So basically, you were spending too much time with your kids, like, or you had
No,
over influence?
It was no. It was actually my wife not having enough time with.
Oh, right, got it. Okay.
So, at that age, the father figure playing a lot or spending time a lot with the son really doesn't help, right? That's what she said, right? So she gave me an advice that, hey, try to focus on making your wife happy.
Yeah.
And having her more slack in her life, so she would spend her time with the child, right?
With kids, yeah.
And when they grow up, until like 7, 8, it's not going to be a problem. But she showed me this research. I don't know how old this research was, but it's funny research that. Do you know how many average or median weeks it takes for a child to accept a new father figure in his or her life when her mother is being supportive? Like, for example, like this.
This is a little scary. I don't know if I want to know.
So let's say you got divorced, right? And your mother is starting to bring boyfriends into her life and telling the child, this is your new dad. And the research is on how many median...
It only takes like 2 weeks or something?
4 weeks.
Oh!
I was like so shocked at this research, and she's like, no, it's not saying that you're not important.
Yeah.
It's just saying that in the childhood, before 6, 7, it's more the mother thing, and then you grow.
Got it.
I was
amazing.
Like,
Wow.
I was like, 4 weeks? You and I play baseball that much in 4 weeks?
Got it.
Right. And so, I mean, these kind of incidents happen, and I realized that I need to figure something out, And then I think when it really hit me was when we had our third child, which was a twin, right? So my number 3 and 4, they're twins, and that's when we were very happy that we were going to have a twin, and we're going to actually, be there for them, because for my first and second, we got a lot of help from our mother-in-law and father-in-law, right? So we were really happy, and then I realized that, I need to get something straight, because I'm always out of the house, trying to learn new stuff, trying new business. I was like always doing side jobs, I would try to do side projects where I would create a new business, and I would always be attending Google seminars, to try to learn new tech, and I was always like outside, right? And then I realized that it's not going to be possible, and it hit me that I need to choose quality over quantity, right? And of course, it should be both, but for me, it was like almost impossible. So there are some things that I started to do. So one was, I think it was like 7 years ago. I told in public that I will not attend in any weddings or any funerals from now on. Wow. And
wait, how did you publicly like announce that?
Well, I put it on my Facebook, LinkedIn, and I started telling everyone that when
you meet them,
when they would just give me that invitation card, right? I would say, I'm really sorry, but I made a pact that I will not attend in any weddings or any funeral, because if I do, I will not have any time for my children in the weekends, right? And I mean, I don't know, like it's the Korean culture.
Do people get offended?
Oh yeah.
Even though you explained that it was for your kids.
Yeah, right. I mean, so the thing was, there were 2 reasons that I told them that it's okay, that it's not going to be like a big problem, right? One was, you were never at my wedding, because I got married when I was 20, and I'm not planning to get married again. So we're off the hook, right? So that's one. 2 is that I have 5 children. You know that I have 5 children, and I want to be a good parent, right? And that the Korean typical wedding is not really about, it's not a small wedding. It's not something you would go there, you would bond with the family, it's not kind of
it's just a formality.
It's really like 100% formality. What you do is you go there, you don't even watch the show. You go there and you eat their buffet, and when they say it's picture time, you go
picture,
and you take a picture, and you go to
off.
where's my next wedding? Yeah. It's all about formality. And I told them, and some of them got offended, and I told them, if it offends you, I'm sorry, but I have to make it.
Yeah.
And most of my friends, they kind of like they said, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I do send them gifts, right? It's like, you will not have me in person, but you will have me as gift, right? And I also tell them, it's nowadays the buffet, they cost you, and me taking 6 people is not gonna help you, right? So most of my friends, they kind of accepted that I'm not gonna be in their wedding, right?
Got it.
So that's one thing. Second thing is, I'm not going to get inside the house if my check-in count. I'm not sure if you're aware of this thing called check-in count. Check-in count is a way that psychologists help people with depression. So what you do is you just write down your mood for the day. You say, like if 10 is like being the happiest and 0 is like the worst, I'm like 6 today, right? So I would do that every day with myself, and if mine is below 4, even if I got off work early, I would not get into the house. So that was my.
What do you mean you would not get into the house?
Because I wanted to show. I didn't want my family to see
you in that
the worst,
in that lower mode. Got it.
So I would actually go on walks, maybe sit down in a cafe and have some like self time, right? And then I would, put on the mode, and I would go, hey, I bought that, and like I would try to show my children that my father, I cannot get enough of his time, but when he's here, he's always happy with me. He's
present.
fully engaged and fully concentrated on me.
Where did you get that idea from? How did you decide that was what you thought was like the right thing?
Oh, well, it's what we did in my my professional teams. So like it's a simple ritual in agile Scrum teams where you would share your check-in counts.
Yeah.
And if the average number is below 3.5 or 4, we would just take a day off and go home. Because like mostly I work with engineers and designers, right?
Yeah.
And you believe me, you do not want your engineers to upload code when they're in their 3 or 2s. You know what I mean? You would definitely come back and fix it because all they would do is write bugs, right? And like we just had this like team set like a team rule that, hey, if our team is not ready to perform today, let's just take a day off, right? Just like let's take a half day off and we'll just go outside and go for a hike, And those are the rituals that I would do in my team, right? And I learned from this, from the agile gurus that I worked with, and I think it was a good thing that I would put this into my life, right? Because I really wanted. I mean, of course, my wife, she would see in my worst,
ups and
right?
downs,
But my children, especially number 3, 4, 5, they were like really young, right? And I didn't want them to have the experience of, hey, I see my dad like 5 hours a week because, and like 80% of that 5 hours, he's like miserable.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
What's the happiness in that, right?
Did your daughter, your firstborn, like your MVP, did she ever kind of like notice and kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say call you out per se, but did she kind of like see the switch and then kind of ask you about it?
That's actually a good question.
Because she had a very different childhood early on, right? Obviously. And then these were like kind of changes that you proactively decided to kind of pivot or whatever.
That's actually a good question. I'm not sure she, remembers some incidents, but definitely I was very open with her. So ever since when she was in 7th grade, I started to do monthly one-on-ones with her.
Yeah.
And before that, even when she was like 3rd grade and 4th grade, we would do lots of projects together. So I would take my number 1 and number 2 into hackathons, like open seminars, all these different kinds of stuff that I thought it was really cool, right? And they would, they would find it fun too, right? And I always told my daughter that, hey, do you know how many, like when she was in 7th grade, I was like telling her, do you know how many 7th grade that I've raised?
7th graders that you had raised?
And she was like, how many? I was like, 1, and that's you. Think about it. I'm new at this too. I want to be a good parent, but I'm new at this. And you know that I didn't have a father figure, right? And you know that I love you. But you know that I make mistakes, and you know that my decisions change. But I want you to know that I'm new at this, but I want to be good at this, and I want your input too. Yeah. So she would be really open up,
Wow.
she would tell me that, hey, you're a bad parent when you do this.
That's actually really awesome though. Like that's probably a conversation that most parents just don't have with their children ever.
Really?
I would think so. I really think so. Like, especially the whole idea that, look, I need you to give me feedback. I need you to tell me when things are good or things aren't good, so that I can like adjust and make things for the better. Yeah, mental note. I'll have to do that at some point too.
Yeah, man. Feedback is everything. If you're out in the certainty and you don't know what you're doing, you just need that feedback early as possible.
Yeah.
As many as possible, right?
So I mean, obviously, when someone's in 7th grade, like it's something that they can understand.
Right.
Is that a conversation you've had with all of your kids at some point?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So right now, Number 3, 4, 5, they're in their 5th and 6th grade. So I think they're, old enough to actually, have one-on-one conversations. So, so with my first child, it's been more than 8 years that I did monthly one-on-one. We never missed. I think it's one of the things that I am very proud of myself and my child, that we decided to, commit to our relationship.
It's like your tradition.
Right. And that kind of set a role to the rest of the family. So when I told my second son, I told him that I said, hey, you know that I've been doing with your sister, right? And I think you should do it too, right? I think we should do it. It's like, are you ready for it? And it's like, okay, yeah. So I think it kind of set a example. And I think 3 months ago that I was telling my first and second child that, I think the number 3, 4, 5, they're grown up, and I don't think I can ever do one-on-ones with them as I did to you.
It's like when you have a team of 20 people, right, you can't do monthly one-on-ones.
Man, this is so difficult. I was opening up. I was telling them I'm not sure if I can do it, right? And they were actually kind of like criticizing me. It's like, Dad, that's your job, and that's one of the things that I really enjoyed and they were kind of like telling me that you need to do it, know, and I was just trying to back off. I was like, no, I don't think I can do it, and they gave me this idea that, hey, what if we share it with you, right? And
like 2-on-1.
Yeah. So now what we're doing is I created a group chat. So we use Kakao, like most of Koreans use Kakao. Right. It's like kind of like a WhatsApp thing.
Right.
So we created a group chat, and it's just me and my firstborn and second, and we talk about how to do one-on-one sessions with 3, 4, 5, and we do rotations. So like for example, last month I did number 3, and she would do number 4, and he would do number 5, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
we would just rotate, and in that group chat we would just talk about, like, I can show you.
Like what happened and everything.
Yeah. Like, and what we do is like, it's when it's not something that it's not a one-on-one that you would do with your like coworkers.
So what's the structure? How do you?
Oh, actually, so I had a structure, but we kind of surpassed it. So in the beginning, I read definitely the high performance output, great book. And coaching for performance, that's a great book too. So these all kinds of like one-on-one in the business, one-on-one for individual coaching, that kind of helped. So I was using that kind of format. So one of the biggest popular format is GROW model. So it's like setting your goal, G, and talking about your reality, R, and O is for come up with opportunities to actually overcome that reality, and keeping fueling that wheel. So W, right? So it's GROW. It's a typical format when you're doing a one-on-one performance coaching. But I was doing that in the beginning, and I realized that what's more important when you're doing this one-on-one with your child is to have that relationship. So it's all about rapport. So it's all about, so like for example, 80 to 90% of our one-on-ones is having fun, creating that rapport, creating that relationship that, like, sometime in their life, there are some dips, there are some spikes, and I spend 90% of our one-on-one time to create a relationship that she or him would understand that is cool to talk with, right? So what we do is like we just spend time shopping, eating good stuff. I went to their first concert. I went to their first seminars. I went to their first everything, like first scuba diving lessons. Like we try everything to just have fun, right? Yeah. But I only do that half a day every month. So we have this amazing time together, and we share that relationship. And once in a while, because they have some, they have their life.
Sure.
They have their hiccups in their life, right? But they open up.
So how were you balancing? Because I know that you were like on the weekends, you would do things with all of them, for example.
Right.
And then it sounds like you also had these separate one-on-ones as well.
Right. So
Like sometimes they happen on the same day and stuff like that.
I mean, we schedule.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So I used to spend half a day with the first and the second or the second child, and that would take up my one day, right? And I would use the other day to spend the whole day with my 3, 4, 5, right? Because they were like really like little young.
Yeah.
All I had to do is like just play, go to a toy shop or
Sure.
just play in the park, right?
Sure.
But now 3, 4, 5, they're bigger.
Yeah.
It got me thinking.
Yeah.
Shouldn't I do one-on-ones with them?
Right.
And I'm not sure if I could.
Yeah.
And my number 1 and 2, they decided that we
Rotation.
should do it together, right? And now we're actually talking more about what kind of sessions or what kind of things that we should talk about with those kids, right? So they're like my middle managers, and I'm having a leadership meeting, and their questions are like, like, hey, did you know number 3? I think he's interested in girls now, And it's like, how should we cover this? Like, and we would read articles, we would read books, we would share each other's thoughts,
That's awesome.
And I think it got us to a next level because before that they were the ones who were getting that advice or that time with me, but now they're spending their time with their siblings and actually trying to become that leadership.
That's actually really cool. So it sounded like you started off kind of highly structured to some degree, and then over time you got a little bit looser, if you will, right? To kind of go more with the flow, where whatever is important to them at any given time, that's what you talk about. Was it still though was it like, hey, just show up, or was it like, hey, I'm going into this with some intention of covering this topic or that topic?
So I think over the time it became one thing that became really important. I think it kind of matches the principles of coaching too, but we always talk about ideal you. So let's say I'm like, Jeff, you're my son, okay? Yeah. We don't talk about like Jeff. We talk about the ideal Jeff.
Yeah.
So
the Jeff you want to become.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we always talk about like, hey, you and I share the same picture of the ideal Jeff. And of course, things happen, you get lazy, or you see some other important things, and you forget about that Jeff. All I'm here is, hey, let's keep thinking about that ideal
reestablish
Jeff.
That North Star. Yeah.
And what can I do to help? Like
so it's kind of like working backwards then.
Yeah. So, and what it's like is it's kind of, I always use this methodology because I am a gamer. I used to be a gamer. I tell them it's kind of like playing a role-playing game. It's kind of like role-playing game. And think about it. You're raising a character.
Yeah.
And you're playing Diablo 4, and you want to raise this character to the maximum level to beat Diablo.
But you can't have every stat. You got to be a necromancer or a magician or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm not sure if you're aware of this term called the inner self.
I mean, I just know the word itself, but not really.
The inner coaching is kind of like a big term in coaching field. There is definitely a great book called Inner Game of Tennis, Inner Game of Coaching, and blah blah blah. And what it talks about is that you need to have a metacognition of yourself. That means that there's the person who's always hooked up with this reptilic brain, who's always thinking of what should I eat, when should I go to sleep, I want to become lazy, I want to have sex, that thing. But you need to have your prefrontal cortex focused on the ideal, right? And that's what I'm trying to help these little kids. Is that, hey, you want your character to max out level, but you're not giving him the quest that he needs right now. Yeah. You need to figure out what kind of quest or task that this character needs right now,
to those
and
stats.
you need to get the quest done, or else you'll not level up, right? And so it's always me trying to help them focus that, I remember that I have a character to level up, right?
Yeah.
And there is an ideal version of me that I want to grow into, and it's actually me that have to feed him the right quest and the right will, right, to actually beat that quest, right? So I'm a person who's there to just remind them, right? And sometimes they can't think straight, or they just don't have enough options, right? So maybe I will bring options. Hey, actually, if you want to beat that quest, I think like you're thinking of one or two options, but I think there's 3, 4, 5. Maybe you should try those kind of too, right? So a coach giving them better options or different options, or a coach who's helping with their will. Like, Dad, I know I want to, I should be that, but I just don't have the energy, or I just don't know if I'm going to the right direction. Then we talk about what makes them happy, and why did they think of that ideal self from the first place? Going back to the root, right? So I think we got rid of the formality. You have no idea what kind of things that I've tried in the early days. We had a Kanban board.
Love it.
Yeah, we had a Kanban board. It was like backlog, to do, doing, done but not confirmed by mother. And there's done confirmed by mother.
It's killer,
we would
man.
do this. We would have burned down charts. I mean, I came.
Oh, your velocity slowed down.
Yeah. I was like, where's your velocity? You couldn't done. You used to do 20 story points this week, but last week you only did 10. It was like, and I would be that Asian father. It was like, but we got that.
Did they ever criticize or push back for,
of course,
making it too like, hey, I'm not an employee, I'm not let's just hang out,
so they're not your employees kind of talk came from my wife. It's like they would say that, hey, I know, I mean, she would say that, I know you're trying to be your best, but your formality is actually eating up your attentions. She would give me that kind of feedback. My children, I think, I think it's either okay, I'll follow, or God, Dad, you're trying, and yeah, since you're trying so hard, I'll go along with it. I think it was both of that, and by when my first child was 7th grade, then I started to pivot a lot, and we got rid of all that formality, and we got focused on one thing, let's talk about the ideal you.
Yeah.
And
I really
all
like
I
that.
want
I really
is
like that.
the rapport.
Yeah.
All I want is a rapport. I want to be in your life, and if I were to drive everything, I want you to succeed. I want you to have the best experience when you're meeting out with boys, when you're talking with your mom. I want that ideal, daughter, but if I'm going to lose the relationship with you, that's
not worth it.
Not worth it.
Right.
And so I dropped everything,
So how did you balance being directive versus, hey, you make your own decision. Maybe here's some additional options or things you haven't thought about, but it's still your choice, versus like, hey, you should do this, you should do that.
So I think since I got different kind of feedback when I was trying out different kind of leadership at work, that kind of helped me balance at home. So I learned lots of pushbacks. I learned from lots of retros that these kind of coaching or these kind of leadership work at work, and with the Gen Z or the millennials, right? And it kind of got me thinking. It's like, leadership is really about delegating, and I was really bad at delegating. This happened when I was at work, right? I suck at delegating. I still suck at delegation. My delegation is 0 and 1. Full delegation or no delegation. This came up a lot when I was,
It is one of the difficult things to do professionally.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of this term called the delegation game by, I forgot the guy's name, but his term is Management 3.0, and you should definitely search for it. And there's this really great explanation video on YouTube. But so what the delegation game does is it actually makes you divide your delegation level to 7, not 2. Not 0, 1, but 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So 7 is full delegation, 1 is no delegation at all. But you have to, so the way you play this kind of like a poker game, and you say, you think of one, like, okay, hiring an intern, how much should I delegate it to you? Like, you're the manager and she is the worker, right? And you would talk about it and you would come up with a card. And when I put 1, that means it's all mine. And when she puts like 4, I should delegate some to her, right? So it's kind of like talking in difference and actually matching up, right?
Right.
So when I learned that term, I was like, wow, this is like almost parenting. You're trying to, well, obviously they're going to leave your nest, right? And they're going to be an adult, make their own decision in life,
Sure.
and they're going to fail, of course. But still, parenting is like trying to delegate that decision of their life, but eventually you'll have to full delegate, right?
Right.
Right. So there's this funny story that I made I suggested, and my wife and my first child play this game. And the topic was getting part-time jobs, right? And my wife was like, that should be my decision, right? And the daughter would be like 6, or, oh yeah, I will tell you when I get a second part-time job, right?
Yeah.
And we saw this huge difference on delegation, and we were just talking about how this poker game kind of like, brought to us, and they eventually settled on 4, right? So 4 was like, I would get your opinion, but eventually I will make own decision. Yeah, I think it was like something like that. But still, so what I'm trying to say is that I was a growing leader at work too. So many of the learnings that I got from work, I try to use that into parenting.
Sure.
Right? So one big topic was definitely delegation. Right.
Got it. Wow. So I know that one of the things that you mentioned when you were in Austin was how you really kind of I don't know if you pushed your daughter, but like she ended up deciding to move out of home and get her own place.
Oh, yeah,
even
yeah,
though
yeah.
she didn't necessarily have to.
Yeah, she didn't have to.
Right.
Right.
And it's like that sense of independence and just going off on your own and just being your own person in a sense, right?
So I think it was around like 9th grade or 10th grade that I started, gaslighting her. It's like, you need to be independent, and in a few years you will have to leave out of this house, but we would get her ready. Because like when you're in high school and your parents talking about, hey, I think you should move out. Most of them they're happy, right? Because they don't know the consequences, right? They don't know how much it will cost them, right?
Sure.
Like, yeah, you agree too? Let's talk to mom. I want to move out.
Yeah.
Like, she was happy with that, right? So I got her ready, like from the start, like 9th grade, 10th grade, and we were just talking about what it would look like when you move out, like what it would look like if you were independent, right? And when she when she got into college, we decided to do a beta test. And so I got her, and I told her that I would get you 1 month of Airbnb, any place you want in Korea, right? So she picked Gangnam, which was like, why? It's like, but she picked Gangnam, okay? So she lived across from here.
Right there.
I was like, why would you do that, right? So, but it was her choice.
Sure.
So she got, she spent 1 month in a full furnished 1 room, and she lived, by herself.
Yeah.
And then I think she kind of realized the reality, right? And she realized that, wow, this is going to cost a fortune, right?
Yeah.
And after 1 month, her input in getting her independent reduced down to 0. She would never even talk about it. So she was like, when I would bring up the subject, I would say like, hey, when are you going out? We talked about it. You need to be independent. She was like, yeah, but maybe you could, I'm actually happy living with you
Get home,
guys,
yeah.
like maybe, if you, yeah, open up curfews, because I would always tell her that we had hard curfew,
Oh, got
right?
it, got it, got it.
Our
Yeah,
curfew was like 9 p.m. or
I
something,
see.
and like, so Korea has like really big nightlife,
Yeah.
especially when you're in college, right?
Right.
So she would not like that, but
Yeah.
I was really hard, telling her that, hey, if you live under a roof, the curfew has to be done. And the only reason that I gave her hard curfew is I don't want your mom to worry about you, right? And just eliminate any kind of, So it was until that she got into this the government ran program where they would rent out smaller apartments for a really cheap lease, right? Then she got into like, oh, I found this really great place that the government is supporting for at least 2 years. I think it costs like $200 per month, which is pretty good,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
she got the finance straight, and she ever since her first beta test, she decided that she would actually do 2, 3, part-time jobs.
And to get there, like even her finding those like other kinds of like housing opportunities and whatnot, how did that happen? Because it sounded like she was like, actually, you know what? Let me just chill at home or kind
Right,
of
right.
that.
But
So
I would always push her.
you kept pushing her.
Like,
Yeah.
it's okay, but this is temporary.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you give her a hard deadline?
Nah,
No.
no, it would never be that.
Yeah.
But I would definitely push her.
Yeah.
It's like, talking about the ideal goal, right?
Yeah.
But not trying to like give her a hard time.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But she did have a heart, to be
make that
independent,
step, yeah.
right, and make that big step. And so when she figured out there was a program with the apartment, she kind of like put down a deck together of her moving out, and she was asking,
Love it.
she was
PowerPoint,
asking
yeah.
us, I need this much help for how many period?
Yeah.
So for about 6 months, we helped her out.
Yeah.
And she was trying to, find different kind of jobs, paying internships and
Yeah.
stuff. And this was when she was 19, right?
Got it. So like, I think it's actually, it sounds very similar to the way that your mother kind of presented the situation to you. It's like, hey, this is what's happening. You can do this, this, or that, and this is what I can and cannot provide.
Right.
Now it's up to you.
Right. Yeah. But compared to what my mother gave us, is actually she did have a deadline always, and she didn't give me not much to work with. I mean,
Yeah.
she didn't give me a roof to stay. So yeah. But still, yeah. I think it's really important that we talk about the ideal you.
Yeah.
And we say that we'll definitely, it will be honor for us to play a role, for you in between you becoming that person,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's so rewarding. I mean, you're a father too, right?
Oh, it's so early. I'm like in inning one right now, right? Yeah.
But it's so rewarding
Yeah.
when you see that your child is struggling, trying different things, and becoming that ideal herself.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And it's so rewarding that she spends time to actually come to you and ask for your advice and ask for your help. Right? That's like, I think that's like the most rewarding thing for
great.
becoming a parent. Right?
Yeah.
So talking with her, settling on that ideal you for the next year or the next 10 years, right? Oh, we do a family thing for this every year too, right? So every January we have this ritual or tradition that we would all 7 members would sit down, and we would have this format of workbook. It's like 30 pages, and we would just jot down like what I'm gonna be in the next 10 years, what I'm so grateful that happened in this year. So it's like a New Year resolution thing, but
It's like looking back in ahead.
yeah. But you have to actually write down the stuff that was grateful that you did, that you accomplished in the past 1 year, and how will that align to your next 15, 20 years, right? So since we do that, so it's easy for me to actually being part of that, because that all gets bottom up, right? So I definitely recommend. Yeah, we have a workbook. We've been doing
Yeah,
this for about 10 years now.
Actually, one of the things that you mentioned that I think I wanted to do too is like when Jane's like family comes over for Christmas, something is it's not quite as extensive, but just even doing a what am I thankful for, what am I grateful for, right? But the whole looking back and looking ahead thing is actually really cool, really nice.
I'm not I'm not sure if you guys have this kind of problem, but when you have a big family,
Yeah.
you actually don't know what they want there for birthdays. What I'm trying to say is that it's really difficult to actually understand each individual child and what their hobbies are, what are they focusing on right now. And for me, I needed to create a system, right? So right now, my middle managers are always doing monthly one-on-ones to to keep me updated with my
They're providing intelligence.
right? And we do monthly one-on-ones with the first and second child. And every year, as a family, we sit down, we talk about the whole year, and I learn so much new things. Sometimes I even feel sorry that
you
this
had
is
no
new
idea
to me.
about some of these things. Yeah.
But I at least get an yearly update.
But you're also providing the same thing to them as well, right?
Right. So I do lots of pitching to my children, you know, because like for example, I remember this incident that I was happy. I was very happy with it, and I told my, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, you probably haven't done this, but definitely strong recommendation is give much as gigs as possible to your children.
What do you mean gigs?
Jobs. Part-time jobs, like not lawn mowing. So like for example, one of the gigs that I was happy with and my son was happy with, every time I would I would go on a business trip, I would ask my child to do a background research on that city. So for example, I was preparing for this business trip to go to India. There's this city named Pune, and I've never heard of Pune, right? And I'm going to be on their business trip, and maybe have a day or so to actually go around. I told my child, "Hey, Dad is going to Pune. If you do a research, and I'll give you like $10, right?" And he was like sixth grade at that time, right? And he created this like awesome keynote on all these images about Pune, right? And he would say that the histories of Pune, I think he probably just like, copy and pasted from,
But still,
Wikipedia still, right? But still, he would just write all these pages about Pune, what I can see there, what are their, like popular food, right? At the end of the deck, it said, interesting souvenirs that you can bring back from Pune.
That's so cute. That's amazing.
Yeah. I remember like giving gigs, giving them chances that could provide, or they could, learn or, grow. I think this is awesome. Yeah. Never give them just allowance.
Yeah, makes sense. No. I think that the whole idea, like I think giving them jobs or something for them to be accountable for, definitely something that like I'm like trying to figure out what's the right thing to integrate right now that's age appropriate. But definitely the whole idea of like how you have to earn everything is certainly a big factor.
Sure.
So I guess I have to ask, like, what would you say that what's the challenge right now as a father right now and currently? Like, is there something that is kind of like, hey, I'm this part, like this is like a new thing that's kind of presented itself, and this is kind of like the area, like maybe it's time. Like, what is it that you feel that it's been kind of like the challenge in your life as a father today?
Right. So my current challenge is scaling up, definitely. Right. So the relationship between my first and second child that I'm happy with. I want this or even more with my 3, 4, 5. Right. So scaling and having this kind of dynamic with my family, throughout the whole, and to do that, I'm really focused on training the middle managers. Right.
Yeah.
So it got me back to start reading about training middle managers. Going back to the leadership book again, going back to coaching and counseling book again, and and so that's my focus right now. And second thing is I really want to find more time and more things to do with my wifey. So like since my kids are pretty grown now. Like 3, 4, 5, they're already in their 5th grade, 6th grade. And when they go to junior high and they go to high school, their time with their parents. I mean, they won't request that much, right? And if I just calculate or just think of what will happen in the future for me, is that I will definitely have more time with my spouse, right?
Yeah, right.
So my focus is on how can I spend more time with my wifey, and we started golfing together.
Cool.
Just like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And she's not like really outdoor person, but trying to find hobbies that we both like.
Yeah.
And trying to, because my wife, she's like really academic.
Yeah.
So she studied law, and recently she finished MBA.
Oh,
Raising
wow.
5 kids, right?
Yeah.
Or 6 kids.
That's incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I really envy her, this pursuit of being academic, and I really want her to definitely hit some kind of goals for herself in her life too. So I want to be a part of that and help her pursue her dreams. So yeah, right now more of scaling and focusing on wifey.
Very cool.
Right.
Awesome. So look, obviously this is getting a little bit longer. We should try to wrap up soon.
Sure.
But like one thing that you and I have talked about before is Korea has the lowest birth rate in the country, in the world.
In the world, yes.
Right? Like, it was 0.7, and now
Number
I think
one.
it's like below 0.7 right now.
Yeah.
You're certainly, if it weren't for you, maybe it'd be at 0.5. but like there's many reasons why that is the case. Obviously, like cost of living's gone up a lot. Definitely. And like you just it's women with more career oriented, and then sometimes like it might be too late when they want to have a family and they're not able to and whatnot. I don't know if you have thoughts or things that you would want to you'd want to tell like the younger generation of men or women as it relates to.
Wow, that's a heavy question.
Yeah.
But still, I'll try to be light as possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely not a person that's normal, right? So so I think it's two different things. Talking about that the low birth rate thing, it's different because like 0.7 means that there's no turning back. Like I think so a friend of mine did a doctorate about the population thing, and he said when it goes down to 0.8, there's no turning back. Right? It's not naturally recoverable. So
cannot recover.
Yeah.
So like
so
population
like
decline is
Yeah, we're doomed. So the only way that I think, and probably the right answer, is that is immigration. So like going to that topic is more about how to raise your family to live in the diverse world, right? So I think that should be a different topic. But going back to the question that you asked, so what, like, do I recommend getting married and having children and raising children? I think that could be a different kind of story, right? And that thing that I can definitely say from my experience is that I tell my it's a funny thing that my daughter Sela, she's the first one, and until a year ago, every year that when we write that family resolution, her dream was to get married early and have 5 children.
Oh, no way.
It was very surprising. And until then, she met this awesome, handsome-looking IT guy in a celeb show that she decided that, I want to be a director of Google. Yeah, girls change their dreams so. But still, so I've been talking with her, about getting married and having children.
Yeah.
Right? I always tell her the same thing. I think marriage is awesome. Get married early as possible. It's so much thing that you can accomplish when you meet your partner early as possible, and you have someone that looks with you in the same direction. You don't have to waste that much of time finding that. Right? And I think it gets difficult when you get older and you have so many possessions, like your career and your holdings. It's difficult to actually find the right person because you would have to actually,
Give up more.
or become picky, I guess.
Yeah,
Or,
sure.
So I say, hey, do you think your mom saw something that I have right now back in like 20 years ago? She didn't see anything, right? She saw this, poor looking child who would just chase her every day. It's like, hey, meet with me, And we grew our lives together.
Yeah.
And I told my daughter that if you can find someone who is crazy enough to get married with you when they're like in their early 20s, right? I think that's a good start, So
Very
I tell her,
interesting.
I tell her that marriage early as possible, children late as possible. So that comes from my experience.
Right.
So I tell her, the reason that I tell her that children is late as possible is my regrets on not having enough time with my children, right? So you saw how your mom and your dad not having enough time.
Yeah.
We had to put money in the table. We had to pursue our careers. We had to have fun because we were in 20s, and we feel so bad that we lost. Didn't have enough time with you when you were a child. So I think child late as possible. So one advice to you: freeze your eggs. Get married early, and have a blast as a couple.
Awesome.
Right.
That's certainly not the traditional type of advice, but I mean that does make a lot of sense. I've certainly seen a lot of people where when they grow together, there's more, I guess, more of a foundation, more trust there, right? And I think that the later it is, and even if you're more established, there's like you naturally end up having more question marks about how much is this person into me because of who I am versus what I accomplished.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's awesome. Hey, appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow.
진짜, 좋았어요, 진짜. Awesome.